Oh, he claims to be a man of control. We're live. Let's see how controlled he really is. Good day, Ed. How are you, mate?
We are live? No.
We are live. I just hit the button and it just instantly went live like that. It's great technology, isn't it?
Now, okay. Well, I can't finish that dirty joke then. How am I? How am I? Why? What did you hear?
I heard lots of things. I heard that you're very organized. I heard that you got some great reporting for us today. And I heard that we're going to have lots of fun on today's show. Is that true?
That's my story and I'm sticking to it.
Beautiful, mate. Well, it's great to see you again, mate. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Unspoken Truth. We're live here every day, 5:30 a.m. Sydney time. What time? Minnesota time?
It is 2:30 Central Time, 3:30 Eastern. Yep.
That's like gentlemen's hours or bankers' hours in the middle of the day there in the United States. It's kind of cool.
I got my double martini right here. So, yep, gentlemen's gentlemen's lunch.
It's midday somewhere, right? It's past midday in Minnesota, so it's good to go.
My Wall Street cocktail, my lunchtime cocktail.
Well, here in Australia, as you cross the international date line, we're in the future. A lot's been going on in the world. There's a lot of craziness that's happening, and there's a bit of funny stuff that's happening too as well. I'm looking forward to sharing that with the audience today and showing people what's actually going on. And I just completely killed us. We're just going to, my graphic didn't work. Look at that. Look at that. What happens when you go live? Something wasn't quite right.
Live TV. Yeah. You never know what's going to happen.
On today's show, we've got some coverage of the Biden corrupt cartel. I was trying to think of like a funny name to call it, but man, oh man, it seems like a crime boss family from some sort of Netflix documentary that I've been watching. Not a fictitious show, but a documentary. It's a serious thing that's going on with the Bidens, and there's a lot of things that have been happening. And I'm going to share a couple of this, just so much content going around, folks, and it's very, very hard to disseminate that. And I found a video that I'm going to share with you that explains exactly what's going on and exactly what they've found and what you can expect next as well. So that will stop you trawling through the endless reports that are out there and the endless hype that's out there as well. So I'll bring it straight to you. And I'm going to show you as well how you can help yourself to disseminate some information. I've got the AI is a really useful tool. I'm going to show you how I do that. And that might be something that could be interesting to you as well. It only takes you like literally less than a minute to do this. And then you can ask a whole bunch of questions to the AI about what's really going on. And you'll see quickly if you're an instrument of the deep state. So this morning, as I was putting this together, I was trying to be really careful that I'm not parroting actually what the deep state from the Republican Party is saying, or what the Democrats are saying, or what the news media are saying, more importantly, right? Because they're the gatekeepers and the arbiters of truth. So I'm just trying to see if this is true or it's not true or something like that. Anyway, I'm going to show you the tools that I use. Only take me a minute to show it to you, and hopefully that can be useful for you as well, ladies and gentlemen. Ed's got some information for us about another collapse of another, not bank, crypto exchange, but another version of a bank. And I saw an interview with Michael Saylor and Patrick Bet-David just yesterday, and there's a whole lot of clips floating around with those two talking about Bitcoin and what's going on. And really interestingly, Michael Saylor is saying that whatever you do, make sure you reduce your exposure to the bank. He said
he said that?
He did, yeah. He said you'll like this bit as well that he says. It kind of just validates your argument, right? And it's true. And he said, I've only got 3 months worth of bills there, and in my personal account. And then he says he's got something like $192 million in the bank across several different banks, but he's got $4 billion worth of Bitcoin. And so when he looks at the numbers, it's about something like 10% of his money, 10 to 15% of his money is in the bank, and the rest of it is somewhere else, whether that's Bitcoin, it's property, or it's gold, or whatever. It doesn't matter. What he's saying is exactly what you're saying. And I thought that was really poignant. I was sitting there watching, and I'm thinking, where have I heard that? That's where I've heard that before. The mantra on the channel is reduce your exposure to the bank, get yourself some gold and silver, and lock in the value of your dollars right now and today with gold and silver, and create some passive recurring income. Now, yesterday, Ed, before I kind of step off here, my missus said to me, why do you guys keep saying that? What is that? And I said to her, look, the most important thing that we're all experiencing in the economy now, all this geopolitical stuff, yeah, that's all whatever, really, it doesn't affect you very much. But the thing that does affect you is cost of living. And cost of living and inflation is a problem for every single person in the Western world. Stuff is just more expensive. Once upon a time, it used to cost me about $40 to fill up Susie's Mini. Go to the servo, put some petrol in it, $40, and not even think twice. Now I'm nudging $60. It's almost another 50% on top of what it was. It's unbelievable how expensive it is. But then when I look at the oil prices that are almost the same as what they were pre-February 24, 2022, the war's got nothing to do with the oil prices.
No.
This is all gouging. This is all profiteering, and maybe in some ways a little bit of racketeering is the way to describe that as well. And I said to Susie that the solution to things being more expensive, instead of you worrying about how expensive things are, you've got to create some passive recurring income. That's it. That's the solution to it.
That's how you keep up. Yep.
That's it. And Susie has a really good government job. She does a fantastic job, and she helps a lot of people, and she helps a lot of families in doing what she does, and she gets paid pretty well also. But people that work for the government are on fixed incomes, and there's really no other way for her to earn more income when things become more expensive other than to have another job or to have a business, which we've got, which I help her operate. And the thing is, there's only so much of that you can do because you're going to burn out. So the idea is that you create some streams of passive recurring income so you don't have to swap your time for money, and inflation can go up by 50% and I don't give a shit because
That's right.
I've got the cash flow coming in and it covers off everything I need.
Yeah, inflation is the most insidious tax in existence because it affects everyone. It doesn't matter, which tax bracket you're in. It affects everyone, and it affects the poor the most because they have much less wiggle room. They have, they have fixed incomes, and their incomes are low. So, inflation is the most insidious, evil form of taxation that we have, and it affects everyone. So, yeah,
I would add to that by saying that as inflation is running away like it is right now in Western countries, in your country and mine, it's getting worse and worse. And they try and smooth it over with political doublespeak. The solution to it is to make your life even worse. So they want to inflict more financial pain on you by raising interest rates to curb your spending, which curbs inflation. So inflation is running away, causing cost of living pressures, and people are one paycheck away or one rent increase away from sleeping in their car or surfing their mate's couch. And then all of a sudden they raise interest rates again. And then what it's trying to do is to cool the economy down. But when they use all this political corporate doublespeak and this bullshit that they talk continuously, what they're saying is we need to inflict as much financial pain. This is the unspoken truth. We need to inflict as much financial pain on our constituents as humanly possible to cool off the economy because we're bad money managers. That's what they're saying. Because the cost of energy is too high. We've got stupid policies that are causing inflation to run away, and we're blaming somebody else and never take responsibility for ourselves. We don't even get on the stand at a press conference and say, sorry. We don't even say that. We just go, bad luck. You're going to have to pay more at the pump. You're going to have to pay more at the grocery store, and you're going to actually pay more for your mortgage, and we might put you out of home and make you homeless.
And really, and that's actually a smart thing to do from their point of view. If they really want to get people to stop spending money to bring the inflation rate down, if they stood at the podium and just said, yeah, we're going to raise rates and not really explain, well, it is going to make your life more miserable. It is that is going to be the effect. Well, why don't they just say, listen, this is why we're doing it. Yes, your lives are going to become more miserable, but what we have to do, if they explain it in real terms, at the very least, people will take them more seriously. At least they might understand a little bit, why they're inflicting this pain. Instead, like you said, it's all doublespeak, and they don't want to be blamed for any of this. Remember, these politicians, these economists, they're never wrong, right? They're never wrong. It's never their fault.
There's one really funny thing. I've been listening to this book. It's about how to unlock your genius, and I think I mentioned it to you a couple of times. It's actually really, really good. It's called Awaken Your Genius, and it's by Ozan Viral. So that's what the book looks like. I'll pop a link in the description to it. And right towards the end of the show, he talks about people making predictions for the future. So really, the book is kind of about how to live your life and not be influenced by outside things. You kind of take in that information, but you do it. And it's a really, really good book, and because it will remind you that you don't need Twitter, you don't need these influencers, you don't need all. You've got everything you need right here. You're looking for love in all the wrong places. Just look within yourself, right? That's kind of the summary of the book. And he's a master with words. And when you hear somebody that's a master with words in the English language, it doesn't matter what the topic is, it just rolls so beautifully. And I think I love books and I love storytelling, but I love English language a lot as well. And you know that from studying at college and university. You know that as well. You know how powerful words can be and how they can give you those feelings and whatnot. And right towards the end of the book, he talks about people who are trying to predict the future. And there's been countless studies, apparently, according to him. I don't know, I can't verify it, I haven't seen it, but there's been a lot of studies out there about when people come on television, of all places, as experts. So if I use air quotes and say, I'm an expert. So if I'm the journalist and I bring you, Ed Anderson, on the show and I say, okay, tell me what you think is going to happen in the future. And you make a prediction for the stock market, you make a prediction for something. It's been proven that those experts, the more that they're shown on TV, the more they're wrong. And in fact, the statistic is 100% of the time they are wrong. And it's got something to do with, they can't quite figure it out, right? But it's got something to do with your ego, is that the news media is wheeling you out and they want you to be out there. They want you to be on television, and then you're going to be the expert. So you've got to make a stand. You've got to take a stand and say these things. But 100% of the time when you do that, you're wrong. And it's a very funny thing that
makes sense.
Like a paradox of humanity.
No, that makes sense, because you want to give people something unique. You want to give them something that no one else is telling them. So you got to think, well, what's the most unique prediction I can come up with? And by doing that, you're taking on more risk, because it has to be more of an extreme prediction, right? So
a couple of years ago, it was about 5 or 6 years ago now, I worked with a fella who owned a business called Australian Aviation, and I worked with him in upper management. And we took over this. Well, he bought this business, we took it over, and we were trying to turn it into something, but really it was dying on the vine, and it was time to kind of put the sword to it or to reinvent it into something else. Ultimately, somebody else acquired it, but at the time, my mate Boo that I was working with, he's an ex-fighter pilot. So he was an F-18 pilot in the RAAF here in Australia. So a really super smart dude, right? Really funny guy, really charismatic. He's always got a big smile on his face, and he's a good looking dude as well, right? So he was the owner of Australian Aviation, and being the owner of that, you're kind of plugged into every single aviation business in Australia. People just know who you are because of that, and if they don't know who you are, they know who that business is, because it had been around for like 40 odd years. It was like part of legacy media. Anyway, every time that there was some sort of incident or accident, they would give us a call and ask for somebody to come and do commentary. And what would happen was, there was inevitably, there was smoke in the cabin on a Qantas flight, or, a small plane has gone missing over here, or a helicopter's crashed over there. And they would call us for the comments, like the media. So Channel 7, Channel 9, and the morning shows would do that. And when Boo first bought the business, they were always calling, and he was like, oh, I'll get to go on TV. I'll go out there. And he'd go out there. But after a little while, they were calling, and a couple of times he goes, hey, it's your turn, you go. And I'm like, no, man, I'm not going. And he said, why not? And I said, no. You're asking me to go and comment on something that I'm not properly qualified to comment. I'm not an airline pilot. You want me to go and comment on an airline crash or an accident or an incident or something like that? Yeah, I've got expertise. Yeah, I can give a rational argument and a comment. But as soon as I show my mug on TV, they're going to look and go, who is this guy? He's not even an airline pilot. He's just like some analyst guy. Like I just had a bit of imposter syndrome. So that was the first thing. But really behind me, I can handle myself. Like, I'm not worried about that at all. That's kind of the excuse that I gave. But really behind it all, I thought to myself, next time there's an incident, because I'm going to go on there, I'll do a really good job. He's going to say, hey, you go. And then every time there's an accident or an incident, they're going to wheel me out as the accident or incident guy as it relates to aviation disasters and people dying because they hit the ground at 400 kilometers an hour. And I'm like, nah, man, I'm not playing that game at all. And I'm not going to go and pretend like I'm an expert in all of that stuff after the fact. So be really careful of trying to position yourself as the expert there.
Yeah,
You just don't want to do that.
Yeah, because of my position, as a trader and as a trading instructor, I would always get people asking me, "So, Ed, why did the market go down today?"
Yeah, it's the exact same thing. See, and you're like,
right.
I don't know, man.
Well,
I wasn't at the controls.
Listen. For a while, I enjoyed giving them, a really sophisticated answer. After a while, I just said there are more sellers than buyers.
That's it. Yeah, there's just nothing more.
Hey, why did the market down? No, there are more sellers than buyers. Then they stop asking me, so because they know what I'm going to say. Yeah, there are more sellers.
Why is the market so strong today? Why is it rallying? Well, there's more buyers than sellers. Like, why else would it be there? There's just only you can peel back all the layers of the onion, but that's really the only reason.
Yeah,
that's funny. All right, let's shift gears. I've got the Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden, man, he's caused some problems to the Biden family. And the defense, you would have seen it by now, ladies and gentlemen, that the Republicans have come out. There's been a big investigation. It's an ongoing investigation. They've now debunked several theories that Joe Biden wasn't peddling influence and his son wasn't taking money whilst he was not in office. So that was their initial defense, saying, hey, he's no longer the vice president. He's no longer in politics. He's out. He can do whatever he wants. And in his defense, yeah, he probably could. But it's now been proven that while he was the vice president, while he was still in politics, all of this circle jerking stuff is going on. And when as I mentioned at the top of the show here, I've got a quick report that shows all of that. So let me just share my screen with you folks so you can see exactly what's going on. And we'll play this little report, which will catch you all the way up.
No sound, Rob.
No sound?
No sound.
Oh, that's annoying as hell. So, okay.
Well, there should be a box say you click on turn on the volume, right? When you do the share button, there should be a box there that say click on volume.
When do I share? Let me try again. Maybe I'll just try to share that.
Hit the share button. At least that's the way it works with Zoom. When you hit the share button, there's something to click on for volume.
Let's have we got volume now?
12 different banks that they were laundering this money through. Maria, what we presented yesterday was from 4 banks.
Is that volume?
We have 8 more banks. What we found is thus far $10 million that I don't think a single member of the Biden family can explain how they received was deposited into the Biden family account. And the way they did it, the way they transferred money around is honestly why they got so many suspicious activity reports from the banks, because it's a pattern of money laundering. So there's clearly a trail of corruption here that leads all the way to the top. I mean, why else would the Biden family be receiving this money were it not for the big guy who was vice president and now president? And remember, Maria, the media always covered for Joe Biden and said these payments weren't made when Joe Biden was in office. They were made when he was a private citizen. We dispelled that myth yesterday, especially with respect to Romania. 16 of the 17 payments from the corrupt Romanian foreign national that went to the Biden family were made while Joe Biden was vice president and actively involved in Romanian foreign policy.
That is just incredible to me. Here's a bit of what you and your colleagues said yesterday at the press conference. Watch this.
The bank records show the Biden family, their associates, and their companies received over $10 million from foreign nationals and their companies. Some of that money came from a Chinese company and went to Hunter Biden's company.
The Bidens used their associate Rob Walker to bring in millions of dollars from China and Romania. Walker's limited liability company, Robinson Walker LLC, paid Hunter, James, Hallie, and others in the Biden network more than $2 million after foreign money hit his account. Over the next 3 months, Robinson Walker LLC sent 16 incremental payments to over 5 different Biden accounts, totaling $1,065,692.
Congressman, this is incredible. You just said that you identified 20 plus shell companies. So what were they doing? Creating shell companies, LLCs, for foreign nationals to send money to, and then they got that money and distributed to Biden families to make it confusing, hard to follow?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Maria. And there's a term for that. It's called racketeering. When you create companies for the sole purpose to hide money, to try to use it in a laundering scheme. So the banks knew that this smelled of money laundering. I don't think all the banks knew about how many different LLCs the Bidens had created. So I've made some pretty serious accusations yesterday at a nationally televised press conference, but I haven't heard one thing the White House has said to dispel anything that I said, other than they say, well, it's conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories, we showed bank statements. This is something that the press isn't used to, especially since Adam Schiff was leading investigations when the Democrats were in control. We actually have a thing called evidence now, and the evidence was in the form of bank statements. So when we say to a national audience that the Bidens created 20 companies that serve no purpose other than to launder money. That's a pretty serious accusation, Maria, and not a word from the White House, not a word from the mainstream media in pressing the White House to determine whether that's true or not. So, what the Bidens need to tell the American people is exactly what those 20 companies did. What did they produce? What services did they offer? And what we're going to do moving forward in this investigation, Maria, is we're going to demand that the Biden family provide invoices or evidence that they actually did provide services or sell something or manufacture or do something like a normal business to receive that money. If they can't do that, then obviously all eyes are on Joe Biden, because why else would foreign nationals be wiring money to his nieces, nephews, and grandchild?
Hey, don't your grandkids get paid by the CCP and Romanian criminals?
Yeah, this
Man,
is
it's hilarious. But he left the door open there. So let me give you some unspoken truth, because I think this is the unspoken truth right here. Is he left the door open for it? Because if I was being investigated and suddenly the person investigating me goes, well, show me the receipts for that, I'm like, I'm a Photoshop ninja. I'll fix that in about like 3 minutes. Give it here. And I'll pretend like here's all the, you need me to produce like 400 invoices? No worries. Watch this. I'll create an action in Photoshop and make it all go away. So he if you listen closely to what he said, he left the door open there. And is that a thing that they're doing, to create all this political discourse? What's the narrative behind this? What's driving this? Is this maybe going to go away, or is it just being, found out to be actually nothing in the end?
Well, they don't want to use all their bullets in one shot. They've got to string it along a little bit. They want this narrative to go on for a while. Otherwise, the news cycle goes so fast, right? This story could be forgotten in a week.
Yeah, it'll be gone tomorrow. Yeah, literally. Right. Huh?
Yeah. So I'm sure they're leaving the better stuff for later. The better stuff. This is probably just the tip of the iceberg, right?
Well, he did say that there was 12 banks, I think, later on in that report, something like that. 12 banks, and that was like only like 4 that they'd investigated. So there was 8 more that they had to go through, and they found this treasure trove of information, which I think is. But I can't help but like watch it. It's like a political circus, right? It's like a clown show. These people behaving like that and causing all of this ruckus and what's going on. Have you read Hunter Biden's book, The Laptop from Hell?
No.
The Miranda Devine book?
No.
You should get that audio book, man.
Okay.
I promise you, like, you actually will, at the start of the book, man, for the first maybe 100 pages or something, you actually warm to the guy. You'll think he's all right, He's just a shitbag. His life comes apart. He's a drug addict. His dad's the vice president. He's got all this money. He's got all these hookers, and he's painting this art and all this bullshit. It's impossible not to like the villain, man. It's funny.
Of all the things that I would rather do with my time.
Come on, man. You got to have some fun in your life. And, he's the quintessential bad boy, actually.
I'd rather go in for an unnecessary root canal.
Ed's going for his colonoscopy while I'm listening.
Yeah, at the same time. Yeah, at the same time, doing it on both ends. I'm no interest in talking about a waste of my life. Look, I only have so many hours left in my life. I'm not going to. But listen, you think of Rob and I spend a lot of time on these. Every day we're doing these YouTube videos. But you know what? That's not enough. We still are chatting.
After for an hour after.
So last night we're having these exchanges, message, and Rob. I think they got him now, man. He can't wiggle out of this. They got him dead to rights. And I'm like, listen.
Truth is way better than fiction that you see on TV, man, or any Netflix show as well. Let me just share my screen here. There's no sound required. I just want to keep this moving along a little bit for us so people can understand and get a little bit more information. So I just want to show people something and give them something back in the audience, because they're so giving with us watching our content and sharing and commenting. So one of the things that I do when I'm looking for these news stories, go away and Google it. There's a bunch of different services that you can use. And then what you can do to cross-reference these articles against each other to figure out who's saying what and what's different. If I look at, say, 5 or 6 different articles and take the time to scroll like this and read these articles, it's quite hard to disseminate all the information. So one thing that you can do is you can copy and paste all the text out of this here. So just copying it, right click copy and paste it into ChatGPT. So I took that whole article there from Daily Mail, right? And I say, summarize this and tell me how many companies were associated with Hunter Biden. So right now, so I take all of that, I copy and paste it, and it says right down here at the bottom. So in summary, Hunter Biden is associated with at least 15 companies as per this investigation. Now, that's quite different to what we just watched in the news report over here with this fella, because he said that there was 20 companies. So we're getting 15 here. But it does go through and detail exactly what's happened and how that's happened. And I've just asked it here. So what services did Hunter Biden provide to get these payments? So that's based on this article. So you might be wondering, oh, what is it? You know, he got $1 million here, $10 million there. What is it? So you ask it and it tells you exactly what it is. So these allegations are made as part of an ongoing investigation and reflect that. So the article suggests that the nature of services provided by Hunter Biden in exchange for the payments from foreign entities remains unclear. So that correlates to what he was saying over here, but this 15 companies doesn't correlate. Now, this might be an earlier article, and later on in the day, they came out and said that information, which was pretty interesting. So some of the evidence that they had was these bank account records. And once again, take it all with a grain of salt, ladies and gentlemen. And the unspoken truth is I could make this in about the next 20 seconds while I'm talking to you here on a live stream. I'm clever enough to actually do that. And, you know, I've got that icon somewhere in a folder on my desktop. I can redact something with a thing in Photoshop. But what they're saying essentially is, look, the next day Walker transferred $59,900 to his personal account. Then Walker wired $59 grand, approximately 1/3 of the total amount, to Robert Hunter Biden. So what they're doing is they're showing the paper trail of the transactions that have actually happened. So here's another transaction that's gone on. Here's the originating accounts where the money came from and where the money went to. So you can see this is just a big giant circle jerk. They're paying internally to each other to actually make it happen. And you can see there's a little bit more going on here as well. Now, when I look at all of that, I think that these people are really not as smart as what you think. Do you remember the Panama Files, Ed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So for people that don't know what the Panama Files are, that was when there was a bunch of journalists globally that exposed what was going on in Panama. And there was some legal entities there that would set up shelf companies and they would collect money. And they collect money from the president of Pakistan,
Putin.
And there was like so many people around the world implicated in the Panama Files. But ultimately, what they were doing in the Panama Files was completely illegal. Not a lot of people know that. So what they would do is they would set up. So I'm a bad dude, like Hunter Biden, for instance. I'd go to Panama. I'd set up a company in Panama, and I would be the person doing that. But the people in the office, and this is where it becomes illegal, the poor lady in the front office that was doing all the paperwork was the one that signed the paper to say that she was the director and the founder of the company. She was ultimately responsible for where the initial cash flow and capital was invested, but she didn't know what she was signing. The boss come along, put a bit of paper in front of her, sign the paper. That's it. Next, what do you want me to do next? You want me to go and do the filing for you? And so these poor people, they had no idea of what they were signing or what they were setting up or how that was actually happening. And then large sums of money to the tunes of millions of dollars were landing in that bank account to that company that was just set up by that poor unsuspecting person. And then what the lawyers would do would be establish other companies, other entities that were at arm's length from these people. So in this case, what Hunter Biden tried to do, but he's dumb as a box of rocks. He's as dumb as he actually looks. What they tried to do was create all of these different LLCs and paying to these LLCs. But the problem is you can see where the money's coming from. You can see that the originating account is this one, and then the receiving account is that one. So in the Panama Files, what they were doing is they were putting all of the money in one bank account, establishing other entities at arm's length. And what they would do is give a loan to these other accounts. And they would write the documents to give the loan to these accounts. And when you're giving loans to the tune of millions of dollars, you're raising red flags, but it's actually not illegal for one company to give a loan to another one. If I came to you, Ed, and said, hey, man, I've got this really great idea. I need $1 million in capital. You go, yeah, sure, Rob. What bank account do you want it in? I go, this bank account over here. You go, all right, done. The transfer's done. What's next? And that's it. There's no tax implication for me. There's no requirement for me to report on that. I'm not a public company. I'm a proprietary limited company here in Australia. I'm a private citizen. I don't have to report on any of that. And if someone says, from the tax office, where'd you get that $1 million from? That came from America. What's going on there? I go, oh, my mate Ed invested into my business. He's given that to me as a loan. Here's the documents to say how I'm going to pay it back. Here's the documents to say how it all comes together. And that's what happened in the Panama Files, to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars. And it's just a big giant loan shark scenario, but it's all legit. It's all within the boundaries of what you can and can't do. Where they got caught out is in the establishment of that. This singular person was established, like, hundreds of companies signing hundreds of documents and hundreds of billions of dollars coming through. And that's where they got them. And that's how they caught them. In Hunter Biden's case, he's taking the money directly from China into a bank account and then trying to go from one LLC to another LLC to another LLC and then distributing payments to those people that are there. It doesn't make any sense. If he had a brain in his head, he would have just put it to one trust, and all of the people in his family were the beneficiaries of the trust, and he could have just put it all in one bank account and they would distribute it that way. And then he could have said, look, I was supplying legal services. But he's not as smart, and he's a lawyer as well. You think that people that have got like education would understand. Again, these people just don't realize what they're doing or what they're getting involved in, or how easy it is to track it, and they can switch it off and seize it all as well. The government can come along and seize your bank account and go, no, we think that you're receiving the proceeds of crime, actually. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop right there and we're going to investigate everything. And then once it's investigated, we'll unlock it for you and we'll let it go. And, there's plenty of examples around the world of people doing that incredibly well. The Panama Files is an example where all of these people got away with it and they continue to get away with it and they continue to do these things. The other example of that going on in the world is Andrew Tate. So Andrew Tate is well known for being, having hundreds of millions of dollars back through his casinos and his other businesses and whatnot. And his online academy makes $13 million a month or something like that he says. I don't know how true that is or whatnot, but if it is true and he's making $13 million a month, there's some huge tax implications there. But he's a man of straw in legal terms. He doesn't own anything. None of that money is distributed to him. So that money comes into companies in places like Singapore, Liechtenstein, Ireland, where they have these really low tax implications, and the distribution of the money goes to his trusted partners, and he's benefiting from the credit card that comes where he can just tap his card wherever he wants for whatever he wants with a black Amex like that. So, but he doesn't actually own anything. Who owns that Maserati? Who owns that Bugatti? Not him, not his companies. It's all at arm's length.
Well, yeah, look, these are not new vehicles, new devices, right? People in the know, they know these tricks of the trade. That's why you can raise the taxes on the rich as much as you want, but they know the tricks. They know how to hide their money legally, right? They know the legal ways to do it. There are legal ways to not avoid paying taxes, but to avoid. But you're doing it legal. There are legal ways to have it done.
There's simple ways in property to do it, right? If you tipped your money into property, then you realize a profit, then you got a couple of months, you got 6 months to tip all of it back into another property, and buy a bigger property and not pay any taxes on it. There's nothing illegal about it. It's just ways of doing business. It's the way you're incentivized to keep going.
Yeah, one of these days, probably pretty soon, we ought to have one of these experts. And I know a guy named Bobby Casey, he's an expert in advising people how to become, nomads, and global citizens, right? And they can avoid, he works mostly with people out of the UK. He sets them up so that they pay basically zero income off the income that they generate. If you structure it the right way. So there are ways to do it. And stay tuned, people. Please subscribe to the channel. We will have people on to help give you some advice on how to do that. So there are ways to do it. For people it's hardest for Americans to do that than any other citizen in the world. I'll say that right now. There are two countries in the world where your taxes follow you. Okay, I can't move to Australia and get a citizenship and avoid paying taxes because I'm an expat. Nope, I still got to pay taxes in America. There are two countries in the world like that.
Even though you're not making money in America, if you move to Australia, for instance, you say you had a job here, you're paying taxes here in Australia. Do you still have to pay taxes in America?
Yep.
Really? So you get double
Two
down on
countries,
No way.
America and Eritrea.
Okay. You're in that basket case, pal.
That's
Right there.
That's right. Yeah, your taxes follow your citizenship. The only way for you to avoid is to renounce your citizenship.
Really?
Yeah, and even there, I think they kick you on the way out. You pay like a percentage of your net worth. So yeah.
That's terrible, isn't it?
On the upside, if we ever get kidnapped in some remote village in Africa, they'll send a SEAL team for us. So,
well, that's why you keep paying your taxes, right?
Yeah.
You know, there's so many problems with the Australian taxation system that we have here, and the way that you get taxed, right? Is there's taxes literally on everything that you go through, but I think that's in all Western countries, right? So as an owner of a business, when the money comes into my bank account, I spend it, then I pay tax on whatever's left over. Yeah. But if I've got staff, I've got to put superannuation aside, 9% of their wages. Then I've got to pay their taxes, and then I pay them, and then they take their money, go out the door and pay goods and services tax. They pay fuel excise tax. They pay tobacco tax, alcohol tax. They pay tax on whatever the government sees fit to put onto you. But literally at every transaction that you have, you're paying taxes to the government, and it's just unbelievable. So it's no wonder that people that are wealthy look elsewhere to actually try and solve that problem. Because if I've acquired millions of dollars through transactions, legitimate or illegitimate, I want to try and protect that as much as I can, not hand it over to the bloody government. It's ridiculous.
Well, big money is going to go where it's treated the best. That's why taxing the rich argument won't work, because they're going to find ways to get the best treatment. That's why New York, it's empty of billionaires now. There are no more billionaires left in New York, maybe one or two holdouts, but they're all heading to Florida and Texas. All right.
It's a knee-jerk reaction to tax the people with the most money, but they're the people that
employ everybody. It's not knee-jerk. It's a well thought out. It's a well-reasoned reaction.
But it doesn't work.
For purposes of this segment, let's not go down this rabbit hole anymore, because I want to circle back to Biden and the idea that they got him. Okay.
I like talking about it because and let's extract ourselves from the rabbit hole. But the reason I'm raising these things and talking about tax is because what it does is it highlights, two bullheads like you and me on this call. It highlights how stupid Hunter Biden is. If you and me can figure out in 5 minutes of solving the world's problem here on a YouTube live, then Hunter Biden, with all of his resources, can't figure it out. He must be like dumb as a box of rocks, man. I swear to you. Like
the fact that Hunter Biden is the dimmest light bulb in the pack. That has been long established. I don't think
that's well documented.
I don't think we need to convince too many people, of that. But let's circle back to whether or not they quote got him. They got him dead to rights.
They haven't, because he left the door open to say, "Show me the invoices for the service you provide." Well, here's the invoices, then the whole thing goes away.
Well, that's a teaser, right? He's challenging him. In law school, they teach you. The first thing they teach you when you're a lawyer and you're grilling, you never ask a question you don't know the answer to. Right? You know what the answer is. That's why you ask the question. It's leading them into a trap. So, but listen, they could have everything with the official original signatures and all wrapped up in a nice tidy bow and placed on the desk of whoever the FBI Director Ray. The question is,
he ain't going to do nothing.
Yeah, that's the question. Congress can investigate as much as they want, but they can't arrest anybody. They can't charge anybody.
They don't have any powers to do that. Yeah.
Right. So that's why I think this isn't going to go anywhere. And I don't think it's going to affect Joe very much, because he's getting covered by the mainstream media. If anything, they're going to use this as a campaign fundraising tool. They're going to come up with ads showing poor Joe being put upon. He's a victim in all this. They're making charges. They're saying lies about him, and it'll be a fundraising effort for them. So
you sound like you work for the Democrat Party, man. That's the political strategy that they have.
I understand. No, it's like I work for the Republican Party, but I'm telling you how they think.
Yeah, that's actually how it'll play out, isn't it? When you look at it,
that's my prediction.
I predict that they'll say this. you know, this is the next talking point. That guy that was on the steps with a funny thing on his head, he's saying, well, yeah, sure, you know, there's all that Hunter Biden stuff, sure, but none of it connects back to Joe Biden. And the next natural evolution of that from the PR talking points from the damage control is, look, you can investigate all you like. You're never going to find any money leading back to Joe Biden or any way to connect whatever he did or said or influence that he was peddling back to a payment. You're not going to be able to show that.
I think the arrogant. I think it is there. If you look hard enough, you will be able to find it. Because
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I think the defense of Joe Biden is that's what they'll say, and then the Republicans come out and go, well, explain this, please.
Okay, so if the Republicans were smart right now, they would have that evidence, but they wouldn't say they had the evidence.
Well, they've got the whistleblower, yeah? And the whistleblower, the FBI won't release the docs.
Let the Democrats play out this narrative as much as they can. There's no proof that Joe did it. No, yeah, 100%. There's no proof that Joe did it. Let them say that as often as they can. And then, when the time is right, you show the evidence. And that's when it'll have the most amount of damage. Personally, because I think the deep state has so much at stake here. You know, because this is an existential issue for them too, right? They want to protect their own agenda, so they want to keep their guy. They want to protect their people. So I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
I think you're 100% right in that policy with what you're saying about that. That's what they'll do. That's what they'll let them do. That actually happened here in Australia during the election campaign. So the Labor Party coming out and saying, I think it was, from memory, don't quote me here, I think it was 197 times. I'd have to check that. 197 times that Albo came out and goes, we're going to lower your energy prices by $275. And I'm like, dude, why do you say that shit in the campaign? Why don't you? I'm not going to vote for you anyway, but like, just for the sake of like not putting your neck on the chopping block, just why don't you say we're going to do our best to lower energy prices, because that's a priority of this government. We're going to do everything humanly possible to make that happen. And it's like, okay, cool. I would rather you said that and it went down by $10 than you promising $275 and never delivering anything. And in fact, it's gone up by more than $500 on average.
Yeah,
so
but that's
275 plus 500 is $775 increase, not a decrease. What the hell? What are you doing?
Well, that's politics. That's not criminal. That's just stupid. That's just.
But what I'm saying is that what you're describing is you're going to get the Democrats to say as many times as possible, it's not him, it's not him, it's not him. Yeah. Maybe 197 times on record that you're saying that, and every time you say that, you're like, you said 197 times it wasn't him. Look at this.
But yeah, just goes to show you, we don't have a justice system that is truly blind like it's supposed to be. There is a two-tier justice system, and we saw that with Hillary Clinton, how she, with all the stuff she got away that were provable things that she did. If you're a right class, that's why I think Joe and Biden, they were so blatant at the schemes that they took on, because their arrogance knows no bounds. They feel so entitled that Joe feels perfectly free to sit on a stage in Kyiv saying, yeah, I've got $1 billion in aid here for you. And unless you fire that prosecutor who's looking into the firm that my son works for, unless you fire him, you're not going to get the $1 billion. And I leave in 5 hours. So, he had no problem saying that out loud, even though it was so obviously corrupt. But he knew he weren't going to pay any consequences. This is how arrogant these people are. Yeah,
and that goes into great detail in the Laptop from Hell book about that scenario, how it happens, and you leave feeling that part of the book. As you're kind of reminding me of that, I'm reminded of the feelings that I had when I read that, just thinking, man, the gall of these people to do that and to come out and to say, and so imagine what's going on behind closed doors. And, you couldn't write it in a Hollywood script. Like, Hollywood are not creative enough to think that they would be so ballsy, because, the person would write that in there and say, he comes out and he says this publicly in front of a press conference.
That would never happen.
Goes, no, we didn't. He would do that on the download. That would happen. Criminals don't behave like that.
Yeah.
Quiet. He doesn't want to get caught, man. He's going to get caught if he does that.
Yeah.
He's never going to get
That
caught.
would never happen. That's unrealistic. Rewrite that. That would never happen.
All right, so Mr. Stock Market Pundit, expert, tell me what's going to happen with the Biden family. You said a couple of times nothing. You don't think anything's going anywhere.
No, not legally. I mean, I suppose Joe could suffer some political consequences from this. Depends on how good the mainstream media is at covering it up. But more and more people now are starting to get their information from alternate sources. So who knows? But remember, our country right now is very tribal. We have two sides of the country, and they're dug in, and they get behind their guy, regardless of his shortcomings. Doesn't matter that he did this. Doesn't matter he did that. He's our guy, so we're gonna vote for him regardless. I don't care, because so society right now is so tribal. Every election, forever now, is going to come down to a small sliver of people, like 3 to 4% of the population. That's going to decide every election from now on. Everyone else is dug in. So every campaign from now on is going to be about capturing that 3 to 4%.
Yeah, it's very small, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, not really.
And not only that, and they're going to break it down to a particular county in a particular state. Okay, yeah. California, we know it's blue. We're not going to get it. New York, it's all blue. We're not going to get it. So, okay, that's purple. They'll get it down to literally a few counties in America that everything hinges upon.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'll close it out by saying, and juxtaposing it against with the Australian political system and what goes on here. I think I mentioned to you a couple of times, and I'm going to put together some info to give you some detail on it. Actually, is that the last half dozen New South Wales premiers, or bar the most recent one who was actually elected, and the one that's just gone because he was appointed and lost the election. But prior to that, they were all fell on their own sword because of corruption. And one New South Wales premier, his name is Barry O'Farrell. Barry O'Farrell was the opposition leader while the Labor Party were in power for, I think it was like 2 terms, maybe 3 terms, a long time, right? He was the opposition leader for a long time. And eventually he won. And it's like, I can remember thinking, man, that guy is like patient. He's one patient dude to be fighting in that crocodile like swamp with all of those. Oh my God, like how do you do that? And he won. And I thought, all right, now you're there. Like, are you going to be any better than that other jerk that was before you? And the answer was no, not really. They're all the same, right? Of all of the political stripes. But he got in trouble with we have a thing here in Australia called ICAC, the Independent Commission Against Corruption, which is a little bit like what your investigations are there in America. They have all the power to investigate and subpoena and, demand documents and demand everything, but they have no enforcement powers. So even if ICAC come out and say, yep, they're corrupt, they recommend it to the police, and then the police make a decision about whether or not they're going to do something about it. And what's been happening here in New South Wales, the ICAC comes out in favor of them being bad and doing the wrong thing. So you either got to leave now because you've been found to be corrupt, or we're going to hand it over to the cops, and the cops are going to charge you and you're going to end up in jail. So our system works pretty well. Barry O'Farrell had to fall on his own sword because of a bottle of wine. So he was at an event, and at that event, he was given a bottle of wine. So imagine if you're a politician, right? You're in public life. You go to events all the time, fundraisers. That's part of your actual job, is to raise money for the political party that you work for. And you're at the event. You're the keynote speaker. You're doing that. Your wife's there. You're pressing the flesh. You're shaking hands with everybody. You're taking photos and you're talking to the media. You're doing all the things that politicians do. And someone goes, "Hey, Baz, here's a bottle of wine for you, man. Thanks for coming down tonight. It's been really great to have you here. It's awesome. Thanks very much. We'll see you next time. Yeah, bye." Leaves. Baz gets the bottle of wine. He goes, "Oh, cool." Puts it on the table and goes and sits down, and then goes and does his thing, pressing the flesh around the room. His missus goes, "Hey, let's go home, darling. I'm tired. I want to go home." And he goes, "All right, let's go. I'll just say goodbye to these people over there." Just normal, right? Just normal people, right? She goes back over to the table, picks up a handbag, picks up the bottle of wine, goes home. Bang, gone. That's the end of your political career. You've been in politics for like 25 years or something like that. You finally made it to the Premier of New South Wales that you've been trying to get to for 15 years. You made it there. And because someone goes, "Oh, is it? Thanks, Baz. Here's a bottle of wine, mate. Thanks, mate. See ya." And then he gets dragged in front of ICAC, and they're like, "You were given a bottle of wine for political favors." And he's like, "What the fuck? Really?" That ended his political career. Yeah. And it seems ridiculous. It seems stupid.
It is ridiculous.
But what it does is it gives me a bit of faith in the system that we have. And maybe there are some people maybe there are some people that really do care. And maybe there are some people that really do want to stop this corrupt behavior. Did he do anything wrong? Technically, yes, that's why he had to go. But did he intend on doing anything wrong? No. But either way, you've done something wrong, broken the rules. And if you keep going, we're going to put you in jail. So he had to leave.
You know, what you described is actually the main reason why I stopped being a stockbroker. Because
insider trading.
Well, no, no, because the financial industry is the most regulated industry in the world, even more than the medical field. So you could inadvertently and innocently make a mistake in something, and they got you, right? And it's very easy for the average person out there to ruin a stockbroker's life, because they have what they call the U4 form, right, where they keep track of complaints against a broker, right? And so someone can make a complaint on you, and it has to be investigated. It has to be, it's done, and you are considered guilty. You have to prove your innocence, right? You're considered guilty before, without doing anything. It's the opposite of the usual. So even if you go through whatever investigation they do, and you tell them, give them all the information, and you probably talk to compliance, they, well, yeah, okay, you didn't do anything wrong. Say, cool. Well, so that black mark's going to come off my record, right? Nah, it's got to stay there. Complaints, even if they're proven false, it'll still appear on your U4 as a black mark, as a complaint. All right, and so if you have you can have if a client knew about this and he wanted to make your life miserable, say he bought a stock and it was his idea, he bought a stock and it went down, and he's pissed that it went down. It wasn't your fault. It was his idea. All you did put the trade in for him. He came back.
There's more sellers than buyers.
Yeah, right. he can go to my manager and say, well, yeah, Ed told me, and I didn't tell him to buy it. Unless I had a recording of that call, and so they have to investigate. Say, yeah, okay, well, you didn't do anything wrong. So there are a lot of people out there who are naturally litigious. That's their favorite pastime. They're looking, everyone's a victim, right? And there's no accountability. Now, I got out of the business with a clean U4, which is
that must be rare.
It's very rare. It's almost unheard of. Okay.
Nice work, Barry O'Farrell.
Yeah.
Not even a bottle of wine, pal.
Yeah. But just go show. But I saw buddies get caught up in that net who hadn't done anything wrong. So it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much to turn a poor stockbroker, a legitimate, honest man's life upside down.
Which is what happened to Barry O'Farrell, right? He did the wrong thing without realizing, and that happened. I'm not defending his behavior or anything like that, but yeah, you just got to be careful when those things are there. They're great stories, that's for sure. And you're saying nothing's going to come of Joe Biden. I kind of beg to differ. I'm hoping something comes of it. I'm hoping they show it for what it is, and I'm looking forward to the political circus playing out. There it is, man. You just got to get it into gold and silver, baby.
No, I'm going to say, you want to bet? I'll bet you one of these. I'll bet
yeah, that's only $30. All right, you're in. That gold one, you put that one down.
I'm putting that one up. Yeah. I'm not that confident.
Another crypto exchanges has gone bye-byes. Tell us about that.
All right. So another ray of sunshine for you people out there. But it is important for you to know what's going on. So let's get to it. Okay. So yet another crypto exchange goes out of business. So how important is this, and what does it mean to you? All right. So let's talk about it. Okay. So it was just announced that Bittrex US is going bankrupt.
But it seems like the pain is not over for the investors and traders alike. That's because cryptocurrency exchange Bittrex filed for bankruptcy protection 3 weeks after the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission accused it of operating an unregistered securities exchange.
A major crypto exchange has just gone under. This is Bittrex US, which just filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the United States. However, you should know that Bittrex US is a subsidiary of Bittrex Global, and Bittrex Global is still operating as normal.
Okay, so this is a continuation of the domino effect in the crypto exchange industry. that I've been warning you all about for an awful long time. And in many occasions, I've strongly recommended that you do not hold any of your assets on any crypto exchanges. You should not be trusting any exchange right now. I don't care how good you might think it is. I had one person in my group just this morning send me a message in our WhatsApp group saying, thank you so much, Ed, for advising us to have all of our cryptos off of exchanges, because his primary exchange is FTX. Well, it was FTX, right? And because he took my advice and removed all of his crypto from FTX, he saved a lot of money. He saved everything, right? He didn't have anything on the exchange. So, boy, I cannot stress this enough. I've said this so many times over the course of the past several months that nobody should have any assets sitting in any exchange. Okay, so Bittrex US is not the largest exchange out there, but it's a continuation of the fall of these crypto exchanges. Crypto exchanges should not be used for holding your assets for exactly this reason. And I don't care how big the exchange is. So let me emphasize again, never hold any of your cryptos on a centralized exchange. If you're hell-bent on holding onto a crypto, do it inside of a wallet like Exodus or Trust Wallet, or even better yet, put it on one of those hard wallets. Okay, so let's bring Rob into the conversation.
Man, oh man, oh man. Reduce your exposure to the banks and the crypto exchanges.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what you're doing. And you know, when you're buying gold and silver, you're locking the value of your dollars into gold and silver at the time that you're actually doing it. And likewise with crypto, right? You're attempting to lock the value of whatever it is you've got into that given crypto asset, whether you believe in that or you don't. That's actually the whole principle and philosophy behind it, which is kind of cool. But man, can you believe that another one is gone? Do you know what was behind that? Did you, when you were researching that?
Yeah, well, you know, we have talked about this a little bit on the Untold Truth. We have not really gotten into crypto very much yet. I'm sure that we're going to be covering this more in upcoming episodes, right? But you and I have individually, and then our individual channels, we've been talking about this, you know, ad nauseum, the importance of not keeping your assets on an exchange. Taking your assets off of a centralized exchange, you know, like a Kraken, like a Coinbase. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about centralized exchanges. Exchanges are meant for doing just that, exchanging. It's not meant for holding your assets. And and we've seen some big exchanges last year go out of business, and a lot of people, billions of dollars of regular people's money gone. Okay, they're not going to get it back. Now, at the height of the crypto industry, the total market value of the entire crypto space was a little over $3 trillion. Now it's about $1 trillion. Okay. Now that's the entire space.
Where did it all go?
Bitcoin and everything, right? So when you compare it to other asset classes, the crypto industry is minuscule. It is tiny. And for all the press that it gets, it's like nothing in the scheme of the world financial system, right? I mean, $7 trillion worth of Forex is transacted every day.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? Like the scale of crypto is like nothing compared to that. Then if you talk about commercial mortgage-backed securities, derivatives, bonds, then all of the other things that are associated with the gold market and that as well, is like the crypto thing is just like a drop in the bucket. Why do you think that like it gets headlines like it does then?
Well, it's sexy. It's a sexy topic. People, I think a lot of it is for clicks and for attention. It should not be new news, but also because it's such a small industry, every one that goes under is a bigger deal because it's such a small industry, right? It has much more consequence to the industry. I mean, if you had a brokerage firm of similar size go out of business in America, so what? Brokerage firms are a dime a dozen, but in the crypto space, and the fewer and fewer exchanges that are left, the more significant the remaining exchanges are going to be. And if you notice, we have talked about this before on the Unspoken Truth, is that the government doesn't like competition, and they've got their new shiny new coin coming up that they want to launch, and they can't maybe they can't go after some of these cryptos head on. Could be too obvious and create too much of an uproar. So what do they do? They're going after the on and off ramps. And so they investigate Bittrex US. Now, Bittrex Global is still up and running. The thing that went under is Bittrex US, because they have no jurisdiction over the global stuff, or the ones overseas, right? So the same thing with Binance. So now some of these exchanges went under because of their own stupidity, their own corruption. But this one, it went under because the government actively went after them. So
do you think there's so because of that, they went after him from an SEC violation perspective.
Yeah.
There's no correlation to the banking collapse of what's going on now and all of that exposure that the banks have got to this. Do you think there's a correlation, or it's
no?
Just
correct. Yeah, this is different. This is a different kind of failure, and I could argue it's a more evil kind of failure because this was intentional. They intentionally they're going after the exchanges. It's kind of obvious, what they're doing, and so they're looking for ways to make our lives as crypto consumers possible. It's making them less. Now. There's always going to be a way. I want to give everyone, listen. There's always going to be a way for us crypto to transact. We just have to be more creative. That's just the life of being a crypto consumer. Okay, we've always had to be creative. We've always had to learn some ins and outs. That's why it's important to be part of a community, to share ideas about. Hey, well, that went down, but look at this one over here. And there's always going to be options out there. You're just going to have to learn how to be nimble as a crypto consumer.
I want to give a little bit of unspoken truth to the audience about crypto and about some of the things that Michael Saylor was saying on Valuetainment yesterday. So he was saying, that everybody knows, if you know who Michael Saylor is, he's a big advocate of Bitcoin, right? And the reason for that is because it's immutable. That there can't be any more. No one can track it. No one can turn it off. It can't be. You can't be intercepted either. So everything that the outside banking world can do cannot be done with the Bitcoin network. So just talk about Bitcoin specifically, because I think he's completely wrong. And the unspoken truth is that the government can switch off Bitcoin in a heartbeat. It can never switch off the blockchain and the computers and the networks of that. But what it can do is it can switch off the IP addresses of where you access Bitcoin. So Michael Saylor's got $4 billion of Bitcoin. But what happens suddenly if they turn off Exodus and turn off Exodus's IP address? So now you've got your Bitcoin on a hard wallet that's sitting in your safe over there, and there's $1 billion of it. But it doesn't matter that there's $1 billion of it there, because I can't plug that USB stick into my computer to access the money, because there's no way for me to exchange that money. So we saw in COVID that the minute that you said the wrong thing, the second that you said the wrong thing, even if you repeated what was already said in mainstream media and it was outside the scope of what YouTube wanted you to say, gone, you'd be canceled. Then you'd be canceled off Twitter, you'd be canceled off Facebook, you'd be canceled everywhere. And deep state, all of these platforms are controlled by deep state, all of them. And the only one that's no longer controlled by deep state is Twitter, as we know, or being led to believe that that is actually the case. I'm hoping that that's the case. I live in hope. I see the goodness in humanity. Maybe that's right, but maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe the whole thing is a ruse. AI, by the way, the whole thing is a ruse. ChatGPT is a ruse. If you read the terms and conditions of ChatGPT, anything that I showed you before that I copied and pasted into ChatGPT and I asked it a question, guess what? Guess who can see it? The people that own OpenAI. So imagine there's literally hundreds of millions of people using ChatGPT right now, and every time that they put something in there, whatever that something is that's been seen by OpenAI. And who owns OpenAI? Microsoft. Who owns the large majority of Microsoft now? Not Bill Gates anymore, but Bill Gates is definitely in there, and he was one of the people that funded the OpenAI stuff. And so who is deep state as it relates to injections and all of those things happening in COVID? Bill Gates.
Oh, Bill Gates, yeah.
So the whole thing is a ruse. Whatever you do, folks, don't put your proprietary code into OpenAI and ask ChatGPT to fix your code. If you're going to do that, what you need to do is to plug into their API. Yeah, and the terms and conditions, when you do that via their API, they can't see it. But if you're doing it in their web interface there, they can see it. So it's the same as Google. Google knows thousands of data points about you, because you go into Google and you're using the Google Chrome browser. That's why DuckDuckGo exists, because of those things. So I want to say the unspoken truth, and I want to say that Michael Saylor is 100% wrong when he says that the government can't touch it. Definitely the government can't touch it, but the government can cut your access off to it. One of the projects I was working on with my brother during COVID was how can we create a domain registrar that the IP addresses can never be switched off. So when I go to www.mydomain.com, I've purchased that domain somewhere from a registered domain registrar, and I must be registered by the government to sell domain names. And then the terms and conditions of my license to sell domain names with the government are that if the government comes knocking on your door to say, oi, give us that domain, turn the IP address off, gone, your website's gone. And that's how the government control you. It's like the SWIFT system. So one of the projects I was working on with my brother was how do you create a domain name that can be put on a blockchain? So if someone turns that IP address off, it appears over here, turn it off there, it appears over there, turn it off there, it appears over there. So how can we skip it around like that? The reality is you can't really do that because you have to pay for IP addresses, and that makes it go away. But there is a way to actually make that happen from a technical perspective. And what that would do is it would eliminate the government from switching your website off. And because every time, all I'm doing is I'm bouncing my IP address around all these different places. But ultimately what the government will do is come all the way back to the place where you register your domain. And then it's in those places right there where you've got your domain name servers where they go, just, okay, see that DNS right there? Turn that off there and turn that second one off there. Done. Your website's gone away. So they could do that for Exodus. They could do that for Trust Wallet. They could do that for Binance. They could do that for Kraken. They could do that for any website that you think is out there. Who do you think created the internet? It was DARPA that created the internet. So if you think that DARPA created the internet, don't you think that they're able to control the whole thing? That's the unspoken truth. That's not a conspiracy theory. If you know anything technical about any of this stuff, you can see what's going on here in plain sight. And to your point, Ed, you know, I'll wrap up by saying this. You know, you've been saying for a long time, don't keep your money on the exchange. It's the same as if you're buying, you know, trading options and stocks, and you're transacting in just the regular financial market, you're not leaving your money there. The transactions are happening there, and you're getting those things off there, and you're getting them where they actually need to be. And it's the same, just reduce your exposure to a bank, because the bank can go under just as easy as the next crypto exchange.
Okay. So one minor distinction here between removing money from your bank and so one removing money for two reasons, right? One is you lose, it's a depreciating asset. Any money you have in the bank is a guaranteed loss, right? And the other one is to have cash in your hand, because when the bank goes under, you're not going to be able to get it out. Well, with these exchanges, I want you to get your assets off the exchange, not because I'm necessarily suggesting you're going to protect the value of whatever it is. If you have Bitcoin and you pull it off the exchange, you put it on your wall, the value of Bitcoin goes down. It's still going down regardless of where
no matter
it's
what.
Right. But at least you have it. Okay, so that if the exchange disappears, your money doesn't disappear. Actually, it is exactly like a bank. Yeah. So the reason for getting your assets off of a centralized exchange is to avoid it going away for you. It's not to protect the value. It's not to protect the value. The value is still going to fluctuate with the market.
Yeah, it's not really much different to taking that $2,000 out of your bank right now and buying an ounce of gold. When you've got that physical gold in your hand, the value of gold today might be $1,600, but then in 2 years, it might be $3,000. So the value of it goes up and down, it fluctuates. So, you know, the value of gold might go to nothing because suddenly there's an asteroid we discovered that has more gold than the size of planet Earth. And we figured out a way to mine it, right? So there's a series of things that can happen to that. The point is you need to be in control of it. You need to be in control of your funds, whether they're in gold, their cash, their silver, their stocks, their bonds, whatever it is, or it's crypto or any other thing. You've got to get hold of that. Otherwise, you're just leaving yourself exposed, and you definitely don't want to do that.
Well, there's that old saying, right? If you don't hold it, you don't own it.
There it is. Yeah, that's like that's 9/10 of the law, right? Possession,
Yeah,
right there.
yeah, yeah,
That's how the other saying goes as
yeah.
well.
And that's true with your money too. Your cash in the bank. Okay.
Absolutely.
Remember, any money you're sitting in the bank, people, remember, it's not your money. Remember, legally,
Creditor to the bank.
legally, any money you have sitting in the bank is not yours.
Yeah. I
But
wonder if Hunter Biden
right now,
realizes that.
right now, people's heads are blowing up. We're never hearing it for the first time.
Well, at least we're not saying anything that's going to get us cancelled. We're just telling the truth.
Yeah, these days that could be enough to get you canceled.
That might get us cancelled.
How dare
right,
they? How dare they tell the truth?
Let's wrap up today's show. As always, Ed, it's been a huge amount of fun. Ladies and gentlemen, if this is your first time here, thanks for joining us. Thanks for sticking around and staying right to the end. We didn't quite make an hour. We're 10 minutes over.
We cracked it. We cracked an hour.
No, we didn't.
Oh, no.
That's all right. We could probably go for another 45 minutes here if we really wanted to.
Easy. Yeah. Now I wasn't paying attention to the chat room. I don't know how to do it yet. Did we have any viewers during?
There was a few people that popped in. There's no comments in there, but that's okay. The more that we do this, the more people would see it. So what I would say in closing is, ladies and gentlemen, if you like today's show, please share this with your friends and your family. Don't forget to come on over to Spotify and you can grab this as a podcast and listen to some unspoken truth every day of the week on the go. You don't have to watch us on YouTube. We're also over on Twitter, Telegram, and Rumble. So if something ever happens over here on YouTube for whatever reason, we get a strike and we have to go into the sin bin for a couple of weeks, then we'll still be posting over in Telegram and on Rumble, and of course in Spotify as well. You can watch the videos in Spotify as well. But if you can't watch video while you're driving or commuting or something like that, you can also get the audio version of it over there. And you can download that via your iPhone onto Apple Podcasts as well. And wherever you get your podcast, we have distribution there as well. It's something I'm going to work on today, actually, is getting more distribution into more apps and whatnot as well. But that wraps it up for today's show. Ed, thanks for joining me, mate. And as always, that was a lot of fun, and we got some good unspoken truth out there.
I think so. Reduce your exposure to your bank, put some of your money into gold and silver, and establish streams of passive recurring income.
There it is, baby. All right, folks, have a great day, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye for now.
See you, Robbie.